Wow.
Yeah, so next on the table, we have a kind of a cryptically named release. This one comes from our friends over at Beam, most specifically Freddie No. This is kind of his project in the Beam portfolio. He is the 8th generation master distiller for Beam, better known as James Beam Distilling Co. or Jim Beam if you've been anywhere near a package store in the last 30 years. But this isn't Booker's, this isn't Baker's, this isn't Knob Creek, this is Little Book, and this is the 6th chapter. I think they call it chapters. I don't know. Little Book 6, and this is called To the Finish. And holy hell, there's some ingredients in this guy.
Take yourself a nice deep breath before you start spitting this one out, because there is a lot to talk about here just in the components.
Yeah, I need like an oxygen hit before I get it, but let's dive in. So this is a blend of 4-year Cherrywood Stave Smoked Straight Malt Whiskey, 4-year Applewood Barrel Smoked Straight Malt Whiskey, 4-year Hickory Barrel Smoked Straight Malt Whiskey, 4-year Maplewood Stave Finished Malt Whiskey, and 5-year Kentucky Straight Bourbon, because they needed a dash of bourbon in with everything else. So I haven't tasted this yet. I'm curious if this will be like a smoky boy or just like a total, like, I don't even know what this is going to taste like, to be honest.
I can tell you what this is going to taste like. It is going to taste like an absolute fucking malt missile.
Oh my God. Yeah. So before we get tasting, I just had a smell and like my brain is like kind of like, ooh. But this released in August. This is going out in this month's Beam Box. I forget what they call it. That's their membership program. If you
bottled in box, or is that the Maker's one? No, Maker's is Whiskey Drop, right? Shit,
dude,
I can't remember. I think it's bottled and boxed.
Okay. Well, I mean,
someone will kill us in the comments for that. Whatever.
Yeah, tell us what it really should be. But if you live in one of like the 2.5 states the program supports, you can buy this and they'll ship it to your house. But for everyone else, you're going to have to hunt this down on the shelf. Your local, it is a limited edition. It is priced at $124.99. I admit, you might think that's a little steep based on the components. You know, before there was a 2-year whiskey in the mix and people bought it. I don't think selling this will be the problem, but I am curious because, you know, we've tried 1 or 2 thousand whiskeys over the years, and I don't know that I've tried this kind of like this is straight up Willy Wonka, if you ask me.
Yeah, I want to divide your last couple statements there and dig into each on their own, because they definitely warrant a lot of discussion. First off, this is batshit crazy. The components of this are nuts. We'll go into a deep rabbit hole about that, I'm sure. I want to touch on the pricing of this. Earlier when we were tasting the Russell's Reserve, I kind of mentioned that Campari had priced that product the way that Beam does, where to me, I get confused with Beam's pricing. And I understand that this is Freddie's thing. So being the younger generation, the newest generation master distiller, he's going to have the Little Book project. I understand that. I feel like the nomenclature and the pricing are confusing to the consumer. Generally speaking, you think Booker's is, you know, what released as their premium product, had been for ages. Now, obviously, products evolve, they add new things to the lineup that cost more than Booker's, that's fine. But when you think of something called Little Book, it makes me think that it's like Booker's Junior. It should be either younger or come in a smaller bottle or have a lower price tag or something to that effect, where in fact it's double what Booker's used to cost. You know what I mean? It's more expensive than Booker's. Generally speaking, much younger components. I wish they had called it something like Beam Experimental Batches by Freddie or something like Freddie's Signature Select. I don't know what the hell, like something other than Little Book, because it just feels confusing. That's my rant.
I'm with you. I mean, people ask me all the time, like, hey, Take, like, why do you think it's called Little Book? And the only explanation I have is like Freddie has a little book, and when he has some crazy fucking idea, he just writes it down, and it's like, we'll give it a shot at some point. But yeah, the only thing little really about this is typically the age statements. And, you know, it's not like 4 and 5 year whiskey is much younger than Booker's. God, it's hard to keep these straight. But for twice the price, that's, you know, whether you and I factor it into our rating when we review these things, whether it's on Whiskey Raiders or the bourbonfinder.com, like, you know, that is still a huge point for consumers, right? If you have $125 and you're in the grocery store and you see, I don't know, even like we were just talking about, like Larceny Barrel Proof and Maker's Cast Strength and Little Book, like, are you going to buy 2 bottles of whiskey or 1? Like, that's really a question for the consumer. And I think it's a one worth talking about.
Yeah, I'm with you on that for sure. So did you get a sip of this as I was running my mouth about the pricing stuff?
Yeah, man. I mean, you were sailing away on Conversation Island, but my this this is wild. This is both more smoked and less smoked than I thought it would be. Like
Yeah,
my brain kind of it like went two steps forward, it went one steps back. It like you know, it like kind of freaked out for a second in the middle, but
yeah.
on the
This
nose,
totally fucking rebooted me.
right. I was like, I want to say like it did the electric slide in the middle just because it had no idea what to do in the presence of like this much flavor. But honestly, it's less smoked on the nose than I thought it would be, but it all rams into you on the palate. And there is not a question that any of this whiskey is 5 years younger. And I think that that's because smoke, I kind of figured would cover some of that up, but the youth is like, boom, right there.
Yeah, it's fucking strange, but I don't dislike it. I thought I would. I took one nose of this. I was just like,
Yeah.
this is weird. And it is a little bit weird. But as you kind of dig through it, I don't know as I could really separate the cherrywood stave or the applewood barrel in here. I could tell you that this is like I said earlier, a fucking malt missile. This is very malty. A lot of grain hanging out in here. It integrates really well. I like that they added some 5-year Kentucky bourbon. I don't know what it did in there. I mean, I do catch some pretty good like caramel corn in there, but that's sort of the only thing that makes me think that's what I'm tasting.
Yeah, I mean,
The other components are very woody, dry, smoky, obviously, but like not. It sounds bad the way I'm saying it, but I don't mean those things necessarily in a bad way.
you sound like a scotch drinker. But I mean, I'm with you. The Kentucky bourbon here, like we were all in kindergarten once. We all did paper mache. Like, it feels like Freddie No is sitting down at a table with like just a bunch of weird paper and a bunch of different stuff. And then the Kentucky 5-year bourbon is like the glue. Like it's supposed to hold everything together. Like at the end when it all dries, like that's what's going to keep the shape. I think it worked okay here. Like I don't not like it. Like I'm kind of speechless here on like how to describe it, which is very unlike me. But I agree with you. I think the way they could have won this release was by taking that second bottle out of their bottled in bourbon box, or whatever, and giving you like 2 or 3 ounces of every one of these components to try for yourself. Because for me, I want to know what Maplewood stave finished, malt whiskey or Applewood barrel smoked. Like that is so intriguing to me. And it comes together in a really weird, but kind of enjoyable package.
Yeah, I think what is surprising me the most about it is the finish seems to get better as it goes. So right up front, this is like a whole like mouth grenade going on of smoky, woody, malty things, a lot of grain. And then, I mean, you can sort of discern like there's a little bit of an almost fruitiness to it. Tad like almost like a red fruit kind of thing going on. I wouldn't call it fruity. I'm just saying that it's in there. And then as this sort of finishes, it kind of changes and evolves a little bit into like a buttery caramel popcorn type of deal that kind of does good things to the finish here. It starts woody and smoky and gets more interesting.
Yeah, the more I drink it, the more I like it. Like it's kind of it's brain bending in the way like the nose is just so out there. The nose is everything that I think bourbon drinkers are not expecting from a Beam product. But every
100%.
sip I take, I'm like, oh, I get a little of this. And like, I won't say cherry, but it's like those cherry covered chocolates, like a little bit of tobacco, like this buttery popcorn. The malt is definitely there. And it tastes young at first, but it's sweet. It develops and it's kind of like a pecan praline finish. And it, there's a little smoke here and there, which I think might actually take some, whiskey drinkers, who are used to American whiskey and kind of push them over the edge into like, hey, let's try something new. Where usually like Iowa Scotch, which is what people think when they think of smoky, is just standing there with a sledgehammer, like ready to hit anyone who's not ready for it, just like square in the front of the face. Like this, if you pony up the few bucks for it, I bet I think some people are gonna like this more than they'd expect on paper.
It's more than a few bucks. So I'll say that part of your statement I am a little bit skeptical of. But this is really interesting. It does have like this leather shop, like oiled wood, tobacco kind of thing going on. It's not as weird. No, it is as weird. It's not as bad as I thought it would be. I was very, very skeptical reading what was in this. I'm not sold on it.
Okay.
I think it's a little bit novelty for me. I mean, it's very novelty in general, but I think for me, it's a little bit novelty. If somebody had gifted me a bottle of this, though, it's probably the thing I could see taking out at the end of the barbecue or the end of the evening when everybody's kind of ready to sit on the couch and relax. Everybody get a half ounce of this and sit around and just talk about what this tastes like, because you're going to get a Rolodex of different options from people.
All right. Well, I'm here for it. I think that is a an interesting way to describe it, but I couldn't think of one better myself. This is probably, if you thought it couldn't get weirder than it could before, well, it is, here now. But I like it overall. So that is Little Book number 6, To the Finish. I think that they're alluding to the fact that there's just like 900 different finished barrels in here, but maybe this is the last Little Book. I'm curious. I don't really know what they would do after this, but we've never known what they do anyways. So
Right.
That's a big old question mark for me.
Yeah, keep me confused. This is where I'm ending this one.